Are we live? There we go. We are live. Here we go. Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight in our first of hopefully many LSPR virtual rally nights. There we go. This is something that we've done on campus at Michigan Tech and at NMU over the last couple of years. We want to do something that more people can join leading up to the event here. So jump right in, give you a quick look at what we're going to have going on. We're going to just introduce everybody real quick. We got a panel of competitors and organizers and rally folks. We're going to talk a little bit about rally is in case you have no idea why you're here or why we're here. We're going to talk a little bit about LSPR itself, jump into volunteering and how to get involved in rally. And then we got a Q&A set up with the panel here. So without further ado, we'll introduce them one at a time, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. First up, Pat Moro.
Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing? Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold, so if my voice sounds a little hoarse, hopefully I'll be over it before the weekend. But Pat Moro, owner of PMR Motorsports. Been in the sport for quite a while, not as long as Steve up there. He's probably the elder statesman here, but good to be here.
Thank you, Pat. And you will be competing this weekend in what? Or next weekend, I guess? It's coming up quick.
Yeah, we're going to bring the Sonic back up there and run. It's still the same one. We don't have the second one done yet, but looks like 100 Acre Wood will have the second car done.
Very nice. All right. Up next, Chris Sear.
Hey everybody, my name's Chris Sear. I'm the driver of the 2014 Ford Fiesta ST. I'm the proud owner, partner, I guess, business partner with Tim O'Neill of Team O'Neill Rally School, CEO. I owned New England Forest Rally until this year, so I've been on the organizer side of things. So between the rally school, my race team, our rally efforts, Tim's rally efforts, I've been around a lot of the business of rally, and yeah, just happy to finally be in the driver's seat.
Excited to have you back again this year.
Thank you.
Up next, Sara.
Hey everyone. So I'm a co-driver at this event. I'll be with Roberto in his Ford Fiesta ST, competing right with Chris here, who's been keeping us on our toes. I primarily co-drive for my husband, Chris, other Chris, Nonack, but I've been jumping in with a bunch of different drivers, and a couple more events left for the year. So
awesome.
Excited.
Thanks for joining. JJ.
Hey, yeah, well, I'm happy to be here. So I've been co-driving for about 3.5 years now. Most recently, I'll be in the Fiesta Rally 2 at LSPR. And then I'm also building my own car to compete in for the first time next month. So hopefully I'll have Sara out co-driving, and I'm excited to do that.
Nice. Subaru of the Lake, right?
Yep, the Lake Subaru.
Steve, and I got the best picture for you, Steve. Sorry, I just went on everybody's Facebooks and grabbing my favorites.
You could have asked. I could have got you a better one.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah. Anyway, so Steve Gingras. I have been my first rally. Actually, Chris, me and Eric we did the same first rally together, like in 1986. So I've been rallying for quite a while, and I won national championships in the second fastest class. So it was PGT back then, in 97, 98, and then regional championship in 03. So been around a while. I used to know how to drive fast. I currently drive an NA four-wheel drive Subaru with my daughter, and she actually did a race this summer as a driver with Eric's daughter, and they got second in class at one of the cup rallies. So she wants to do more driving. So and in my spare time, I am the co-chair with Eric of Lake Superior.
Lots of free time.
Lots of free time.
And
Well,
Eric
it's-
has no pictures on Facebook, so I had to steal one from LSPR last year.
that's my grumpy one from the Park Expose at Fox Marquette. Yeah,
You're being interviewed right there, aren't you?
Yep, live on TV.
could be. I don't know. It's a new facet for me. So as Steve mentioned, I started actually before the first races in 1986 in a Plymouth Arrow with buddy Chris Sizio. And before that, his older sister was the one that dragged us into the sport and had me sit at intersections and marshal. And I just thought that was the coolest way to spend a weekend there ever was. So got hooked on the sport, did service, did co-driving for 20 years with Chris. Took a little hiatus, helped with some organizing, and then brought back a Mitsubishi Eclipse that Doug Shepard and Pete Gladys used to drive, and did that with my daughter and son as my primary co-drivers for about 5 years before I called it quits in 2019. And since I hadn't been chairman yet, I decided I'd done every other job in rallying. I might as well take on chairman, but I would only do it with Steve as my partner. I think it's a little for those events that do this with one chairman. I don't know how you do it. There's just so many tasks and so many things behind the scenes. So I applaud you, and I feel overwhelmed when Steve and I are both working on it. But happy to be here. Super excited. LSPR has always been my favorite event. Competed in almost every one of them in the country, and some regionals that are not on the national schedule. So happy to be part of this illustrious group and the old guy of the group.
And I did put a question mark next to that retired because there is a rally car in your garage, right?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Just check.
There's a car and a half in his garage.
And then lastly, Kevan.
Yeah, hi, Kevin Bates here. I've been volunteering at rallies for 5 or 6 years and recently made a terrible decision to buy an old Mitsubishi Galant rally car. So trying to get into that. I'm on the LSPR committee and help out with volunteering.
Awesome. And my name is Chris. I am the chief of media and marketing for LSPR. Been on the LSPR team for 4 years and also been volunteering with Snowdrift on and off for about 15. So do not have a car, have never competed, but love helping and organizing. So thanks everybody for being here. And so what are we talking about? We're just going to show a quick 2-minute clip because it's a lot better than listening to us talk again for a minute. This is from Subaru. They put together a real nice longer video about what rallying is. We're just going to show the first 2 minutes as just a real quick primer, and then I'll let these guys chime in if they have anything to add, and then we'll keep moving on. Maybe.
You've seen the crazy old footage from Europe, or maybe you've played the Climate Crate or dirt rally games. But did you know that North America has an equally long history of rallying? The sport of rally in America is one of the last motorsports where amateurs can line up against factory teams on the same roads and put their skills to the test. If you want to learn more or get involved yourself, this is your Rally 101 class. Rally events are a test of speed, endurance and perseverance. Held on closed forest roads, a rally consists of competitive time sections called stages linked together by transits, which are driven on open roads at legal speeds. Teams are sent on the stages one by one against the clock, and the team with the lowest combined time over multiple stages is determined the winner. American stages have a reputation of being some of the fastest in the world, which also means the top cars here are built to suit.
How to do, guys? What did we miss? Is that kind of capture in a nutshell what rally is?
I don't even think it's close.
What you got, Pat?
Seriously. Where's all the good stories that everybody has? You know, like you went there and the truck broke down, the wheel came off the trailer, you had to rebuild it in the parking lot, or back in the PGT days, Steve, you know, it was changing, you know, we could change the transmission in 28 minutes. I mean, this sport, the thing that really makes it for me, it's a challenge. It's such a challenge, and it's such a thing to try to compete or build your own thing and move on with that. I mean, life is about all your memories that you make, and any rally you go to, it's a memory, you know, and that's what, you know, the camaraderie of every competitor, like every competitor here, like, you know, this coming weekend, we're all going to be going at each other's throats. But if someone has a flat, someone's going to help. If someone's broke on the road or someone needs a tow in, that's the thing about rally that just gets missed, you know. I mean, it's such a good time for everybody. That's what rally's about for me. This is a marketing thing for Subaru, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Rally, like technically it's a sport. We're driving cars, but the bigger picture, it's like a big family. Everyone's out here because we enjoy it. No one is winning anything, even those who are winning championships, you're not getting anything other than a plastic trophy. So we're out here because we love it, and we love everyone who comes out. And this is how it takes over your life. And yeah, it's definitely more than just driving.
It does take over your life, that's for sure. But to follow on to Pat, a good story for that was actually one of our clerk of the course guys, Mark Larson. He raced a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I was racing a Talon, and he broke something on a car. We needed a drive shaft. We took his drive shaft. 3 other people needed parts off of Mark's car to keep racing, and by the end of the day, Mark's car's on the trailer, just parted out, and there's 4 or 5 other Eclipses and Talons that were still racing. And Mark got all brand new parts after that, though. That was a cool thing. So
I do remember sinking a car up there, and I ended up giving my transmission to Matthew Johnson, who actually beat me for the PGT championship that year. So it wasn't really for me about the championship. I mean, I wasn't not going to give it to him. I made my mistake, but again, it's memories that you have on this. It's a camaraderie. The friendships that you make out of this sport are pretty much second to none.
And that's even last year. Zach Jacques leading the regional event gets a hole in his radiator, and the guy sitting right behind him helps him fix it to beat him. So, I'm like,
all the way back to town.
Showed him how to plug that radiator so they could finish, towed him back, helped him with water, full knowing that if he finished, he was going to beat him in the event. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, but I think we'll have plenty more time for rally war stories. We'll try to get through the boring stuff first here, right? This is actually
Meet us at the bar. We're never-ending story people.
All right, so I'm just going to run real quick, just talk a little about LSPR, because we are hitting a couple really cool milestones this year. So even back before LSPR, in 1949 was the press on regardless, and it was a time, speed, distance rally, which isn't what you're used to seeing today. This is one where it's slow speed. You have an exact distance and time to get there, and it's real methodical and real detailed. We actually pay homage in stage rally still to TSDs by having to get in between stages at very specific times and follow specific directions. So, but as happens when people are driving on roads in cars, they wanted to go faster and faster. So then in 1969, it became a stage rally, which resembles to what we're doing today. Closed stages, fastest car wins, time sections in between. One of the oldest rallies in North America. In 1973 and 74, it hosted rounds of the World Rally Championship. In 73, it started down in Detroit, stopped through Elma, and finished in the Eastern UP. They actually ran across the Mackinac Bridge. And then in 1974, something we're celebrating this year, it's the 50-year anniversary of the World Rally Championship coming to Marquette. They used the same hotel we did. They ran on 8 of the same stages that we're using. They actually ran on Presqu'île, which, as hard as we try, I don't think Marquette's going to let us go back there. But this was kind of the spotlight of the rally world was in Marquette 50 years ago, and we'd like to think it's back there again. So 1994, Press On Regardless actually went back to his roots as a time, speed, distance rally. And LSPR was born on most of the same roads that PUR used, as it did change every year. But so LSPR is now celebrating its 30th anniversary. In 2017, it joined the ARA National Championship that we're still a part of. After taking a year off for COVID, in 2021, we moved the headquarters back to Marquette. And then we're here. So 50 years since that first WRC event in Marquette, lots of throwback stages, lots of memories. Young Steve, remembering watching the cars 50 years ago, which is crazy because he's only 42. I don't know how he was there 50 years ago. But, and that's in a nutshell. And once again, to move on to the quick stories or move on to the stories, we'll keep moving on.
all right.
I'm going to interject something right there too, just because we're talking about our ages. Is look at you got KJ, Sara, Kevan, young people. And Steve and I out there, and your competitiveness and your ability to enjoy this sport and do well isn't related to your age, or for that matter, necessarily how many dollars you threw underneath the hood. It's how good of a driver you are. And you could be in an amazingly cool Chevy Sonic, you could be in a Subaru, you could be in a Volkswagen Rabbit from the 80s, and still enjoy the sport and just have a ton of fun and be very competitive too at any age.
That's very, very well said.
I'll add something there for KJ. He's building the car now, so he's got a whole other world coming at him pretty quick there. So you're going to see a lot of things, and just remember, nobody builds the perfect car. Formula One teams don't even do it. So the biggest thing is getting it.
Unless it's an all-wheel drive LS Chevy Sonic.
Thank you, but it's still got a long way to go there. It's still got a long way, and the second one will be, drastically better for sure. But KJ, you got a huge task ahead of you. It's always that last 10% that takes the longest time. More power to you, man. I mean, it's great to see. I'm not trying to say that I'm old, but because I know I feel bad, but I think some of these guys here have socks older than you. So not to mean everybody, your feet don't smell that bad. But anyways, going back, man, you got a huge thing ahead of you. A lot of things to go through. It's a lot of work. You're going to do things wrong, and over time, you learn those things that you do wrong, and that's what gives you the, your rally knowledge in this sport. And it's, and like I say, there's going to be so many people that'll be out there to help you. So it's a really cool, because you're documenting it pretty well. And it's really cool to see, all the trials and tribulations that we all went through. Like, Steve, you can remember back on the gearboxes and the Y pipes on the Subarus and the PGT days and all those specific problems that each one of those cars had, like whatever the Diamond Star problems. I think they had brake problems, didn't they, back in the day? But, all of those things that you're coming on, it's kind of cool to see you document them and take off with those.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely been a challenge, but it's an adventure I've been wanting to do for a long time. And as hard as it has been, I've really enjoyed it, getting to learn, doing all of these things for the first time. And then also doing these with the goal of getting this car from basically a paperweight where it's at now. As of 3 days ago, it was no body panels, no engine, no wiring or anything. And it should be running again in the next probably 2 or 3 days. So it's definitely a really cool process to experience.
Pat used a term I'm unfamiliar with. I think it's called brakes. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, you had one of those Diamond Stars, huh?
You learn to drive without them.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's part of why people get drawn to this sport. I think is because it's kind of like it's like an endurance race, and it's all about persevering. So how can you get involved and get a little more of involved in the action than just spectating? So volunteering is a great way to do that. So you can really get an up close view of the stage cars and kicking up dirt and gravel, kind of flying by. This is Pat Moro's car, if you don't know, with the awesome mellow yellow livery, Days of Thunder throwback there. What you can do is get involved with running the event. So all the stuff that happens in the background. So crowd control as a marshal, timing, communication. If you have a ham radio license, which we'll get into in a second. The biggest thing really is safety, though, of the participants, competitors, and spectators. And I think, like KJ said, it's like a family. So even as a volunteer, it's a really close-knit community. It's a lot different than other motorsports. So you really get to work closely alongside the rally organizers and officials. And like I said, it's really crucial to the success and the safety for the competitors and spectators. So, but we'll get into what that actually means on the next slide.
But just to follow up on that, though, is I think all of us started as a marshal, standing in the woods, watching these cars go by stupid fast, unbelievably fast, throwing gravel, and then get to know more people and get involved more. And that's until you're in the car racing. That's kind of the natural progression. So the way to get started is to come out and volunteer, and we'll show you everything you need to do.
They're the best seats in the house.
That's right. So I think if you get really hooked on it, like KJ, then you end up with a non-running car and a lot of work to do. So, but volunteering is the first way to really know if this is something you want to get into. So that's another great, I think, point is that if you're not sure about getting into rally as a competitor, one way you can really learn about it more is to become involved as a volunteer. So some of the roles that you could sign up for, these are some of the first few that we kind of suggest for people that are generally new to rally and just want to get up and get that front row seat. Like mentioned, the course marshal, that's a great way to do that. Spectator marshal, even more so if you like big crowds and handling people and interacting with people is the bigger thing. Everyone at these events is a rally fan, so I think that's probably the most fun part I think I've had as a volunteer and spectating is just talking to people about their experiences and their love for the sport. Another one that we really need help with is service working, and this is where you'll be, as shown here, checking the competitors into service, but it's a pretty neat role in that you can kind of get more involved and see those hopefully working brakes, not working brakes being swapped out, and getting hands-on with the teams.
When we're in for service, anybody that comes to visit us during service, they can walk up to Pat's car and talk to Pat and find out how his day's going, and Chris and all the competitors, Travis Pastrana, all those guys. I mean, they're very approachable. You get to talk to their crew and see how things work from the inside too.
Absolutely. That's what makes rally really cool as a sport or motorsport, just as even from spectating, but volunteering. I can't think of any other motorsport like this where you can really get involved and, like you said, go up and see what's going on, poke your head around in the pits and that kind of thing. So these are some other roles we'll talk about real quick that are generally recommended some more experience. And this is where you can, again, get really involved in the behind the scenes. So bannering is pretty fun because you get to drive essentially the same stage roads before the event and help make sure all the road closure is set up properly for the next day of the race. This also allows you time to volunteer the next days in other roles. Start control and finish control, that's another great one to progress to after marshaling or jump right into if you really want to get involved with using timing equipment and interacting with the competitors. Maybe they'll give you a piece of candy or something if they're really nice. Get to talk with the co-drivers as they pull up to the start control and get to watch the cars launch. At finish, you get to watch the finish line as well. So you still get to see part of the action, but again, a little more involved with the nitty-gritty and timing controls. Radio is another big thing that is really necessary for a rally. Without it, essentially these events could not be put on at all. We're talking about tens to hundreds of miles of distance we have to cover in areas that do not have cell service. So having radio coverage is really vital to running the events. So if you are licensed already as a ham technician or more, and you'd like to get involved, that's a great way to get started. Or if you, I know a lot of people who got licensed specifically for rally, which is probably half the people who are doing it.
I use my license twice a year.
Nothing wrong with that. Real quick, going through the other ones, medical personnel. If you're an EMT or other medical professional, that's also needed. And if you know anyone who's doing that, interested in rally, let them know. That's a very important, obvious part of safety. Stage captain and lead car. Stage captain is generally what we use to set up the layout of the stages and coordinate start and finish control and get it set up for the lead cars. So lead's pretty neat because a lot of those people you'll see are prior competitors. So like Chris Sizio shown there, who was mentioned earlier. This is generally a position where you're going to want to come into it with quite a bit of experience, but definitely something to aspire to. And sweep, hopefully Sara and KJ and you guys never see this sweep vehicle. Hopefully they're never taking your time card, but that does happen. So these are the vehicles that come by when there's an unfortunate incident with the mechanicals of the vehicle or a safety issue and recover the vehicle. So another thing you can get involved in. So lots of opportunities, really exciting. And I think anyone who's interested in rally, just jump into any one of these roles, and especially marshaling as a good starting point. Any other comments on volunteering? Any of you guys who've started out as volunteers, what you suggest?
The job that I like to get as a volunteer was also to do tech inspection, get to crawl around the cars and see how the cars were built, so that when I went to go build my car, I knew what I wanted. I knew why things were a certain way. So it was really interesting way to learn a lot about cars in a short amount of time. And I'm still learning.
With all, we always are. With everything that's going on with all of the hurricanes and everything right now, everybody that volunteers for this, another good reason to volunteer for this is because you get put in a situation that you have to control a disaster. Because every rally in one shape or form, no matter how well organized it is, there's always something that's unexpected. You get to be in the mix. So I would like to say, for disaster training, I don't think there's any better form of motorsports than rally. Because, we all look at what happened the other day with Verizon and the phones went down, right? So rally makes you familiar in how to control any of these situations. So again, in my opinion, I hate to say that rally is a disaster because that's not what I mean, but there's always something that happens there that's unexpected. And if you're volunteering, you usually have an inside line of what's going on, more so than a spectator.
So Pat, do you know that the state of Colorado uses Rally Colorado as disaster training for their radio operators? And that's true.
I think when the Sunriser used to run, I think that there were some guys there that used to do that because I think the emergency services at the Ohio State Stadium, I think they use ham radios to go all the way around. So, everybody says, ham radios are kind of outdated, but they are good. And, and like I said, I didn't know that Colorado did that. But again, when things go wrong and all of you have an emergency or something of that, this is like a pre-training for that. And it really works well.
Mm-hmm.
I did see some of the radio operators I know down south are all in the nets right now because there, obviously still no cell service in big parts of North Carolina, and it's all ham right now, relaying important information. So it definitely is a skill that you don't think like, oh, I'm ever going to use it, but it's good to know, and it's good to be licensed if you have to.
So what's next?
This is the part you guys have all been waiting for. We're done talking. We're going to let you guys talk. I'm actually going to pull this deck down, and we're going to show all your guys' smiling faces. And here we go. So we'll Kevin and I will still take turns firing questions at you. And again, you guys can all chime in. You can take turns. It depends on what you feel. So first question for the panel: how did you get started in rally, or what inspired you to get started in rally?
I'm willing to go first on this one.
Yeah, nobody go first. I think we need to go from top left all the way across so I can go last, right?
That works for me.
You'd be first on my screen, Pat.
Yeah. Damn.
Come on, Chris, let's go.
All right. For me, it's funny. I actually just reminisced with my high school best friend. It was his brother that told us about these things called rally cars, and we were in Colorado, and we had the Colorado Cog Rally was going on. And so my best friend and I, we were 16 years old. We both drove Subarus. I had a maroon Legacy and he had a Forester. And we drove out and saw our first rally stage, and it ended up having a error in the notes, and the cars came off the edge of this cliff. It was all grassy, and I guess what happened was there was an organizer supplied notes at that time, and there was an error in the notes, and cars were just driving off the edge, and that was all I needed to see that I wanted to be involved in rally, and I've spent my entire adult life trying to figure out how to get here where I am today. So it's been a pleasure. It's been awesome. It's been my guiding star for why I got into business and why I've wanted to do everything I've done. I moved from Colorado to Boston with my company because I knew about Team O'Neill Rally School, and I knew I could get training there and hopefully start a rally career someday. And that was in 2012. And then in 2013, I joined Team O'Neill as the general manager when Tim and I met by chance, luck, and other things. So for me, rally is the core of my adult professional life.
Guess
Who's
I'll
next?
go next. Back in the day when I was in middle school, my neighbor down the road, his dad, Alan George, had a rally car, Datsun 510. And he was like just horribly slow, but we called him Uncle Vinny, but he was still just a great guy. I mean, we used to make the joke that you'd see him hold a cup of coffee and a cigarette as he was driving on stage, because every time you saw him outside of the car, he had a cup of coffee and a cigarette. But went down to the Sunriser back in the day and saw John Buffum in the Quattro and Rod Millen come around in the Mazda. And, never being to a rally, going to it and spectating it, and it ran through the night, seeing those cars come through the woods or hearing them come through the woods at night, you always like, and you watch Buffum and Millen go by and you're like, okay, those guys know what they're doing. So, and get sprayed by gravel on the outside. It was kind of like a little bit of a badge of honor. I think everybody here has been hit by a piece of rock, spectating some way, shape, or form. And then, we've all got that little mark or nick. But I saw that and I said, hey, one day I'd like to do that. And then, as time goes by, I was racing dirt bikes and was then getting my knees fixed and panning through the book and saw that SCCA Pro Rally was still there. And so I said, hey, I'm going to buy a car, kind of like what KJ's doing. Went out, bought a car blind. It was a 2002 Subaru. That was my PGT car. Put it together, showed up Snowdrift, and how clueless we were. We actually brought snow tires, but I actually had gravel tires. And if anybody's ever had gravel tires on snow, you know how horrible of an idea that is. Like, just give me the rims, I'll have better traction. But we didn't run them, but, I only had 4 Blizzaks and tacoed one of the wheels and had one of the wheels, had to be a gravel wheel. But like you say, the sport, you learn as you go. So but that's how I kind of got into it.
Yeah, I have a slightly different route than most people. So my very first instance running with a rally car, I was maybe 10. My best friend's neighbor actually had a rally car. It was Mark Mager, and he had just freshly crashed at Olympus. Olympus is maybe 20 minutes from my house. But I actually started getting into it because I made a big Instagram account and the right pedal, and it gained a bunch of traction, got a lot of attention, and I kind of met a bunch of people through that and was able to network my way into my first couple rides. And then, after that, it was kind of all downhill from there. I took every opportunity I possibly could. And then, now here we are. It's been 3.5 years, and I think I'm closing in on 70 events or so between Rally and Baja. And it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, I followed KJ's path. I was an internet sensation in the 70s. And
you and Al Gore?
Never mind.
I think that was what, Telegraph? Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, so my intro to rally was a little different as well. So back in college, Chris, my now husband, and I were dating. He did this thing called autocross and showed it to me. I'd always, I was one of the middle schooler, high schoolers that watched all the gymkhanas and everything, was into all the media of racing. But Chris did autocross, and I was like, that's okay, that's cool. What about rallycross? Like, that's on dirt. Let's try that. So he kind of switched gears, went to rallycross, and we kind of just went full bore into that group of people. The Washington D.C. region rallycross guys really they've kind of graduated a ton of drivers from rallycross to stage rally. But our stepping stone into racing cars was Chris jumped into Rally Moto. So NASA does motorcycles, and that was a cheaper way to kind of get your grips on what this sport is, learn about it without the full investment of a car and everything. So I crewed, and then we bought a $2,000 Beat RX-7 from Washington State across the country, and it was logbooked, and that's all we cared about. So we bought that sight unseen, had it shipped over, and I bought a driving suit, and here we go.
What's the worst that could happen?
Exactly.
Now you're hooked. You want to run to the next question here, Chris? Or?
Well, I didn't go yet. I mean,
we're trying to skip over you, Steve.
We don't have enough time, Steve.
That's fine. I'll just add, you guys, a couple of people like Chris added, and Pat said this, and KJ said it too, about how it's been the focus of your adult life. The term I like to use is narrow focus, all consuming. You're trying to get the next promotion to earn more money so you can go to more races. You're trying to get the big sale to get more money so you can buy more parts. It's trying to get to the next level so I can, it's all about trying to do better in rally and trying to get more of this, more of that. And also the people. So very good. Anyway, enough.
We have this line when we put our contracts together, general conditions and supervision. That money usually goes to rallies on our construction side. Is anybody, when they built their cars, just got to a point and they say, I don't want to know the number?
Don't add it up. Don't.
And sometimes you have to, and then you get really sick. But yeah, my first car on the first build, it was like I got to a certain number and I was just like, I don't want to know anymore. Just don't want to know anymore.
Yep. But at the same token, you can buy a $5,000 Golf and go and have a ton of fun, and tell all your buddies you're racing against Travis Pastrana or Leah Block.
I think Steve showed his age.
Hey, everybody has that. Everybody has that shirt about I partied with Buffum. I want the shirt that says I raced against Buffum.
We're gonna jump to the next question here, which is kind of related. So, if you're giving advice to someone to get involved in whether it's competing or whatever it is in stage rally, what's your best advice? Not buy old Mitsubishi. I already did that, so I'm screwed. But how do you tell people you meet that are super interested and want to get into it? Where do you start?
I would say just put yourself out there. You see a lot of posts on like North American Rally on Facebook. People who are like, I'm brand new, I don't know what to do, but I want to join. And someone's always looking for a hand, helping out with service or whatever, or you can go out volunteer. There's always places where you can be, and just getting your foot in the door opens you up for so many networking opportunities. And all it takes is you meet one person, and then all of a sudden you're racing again.
And as Sarah said, get involved. There's usually a rallycross somewhere near you too. Take your autocross car, put some better tires on it, and go play in the gravel and learn car control, learn if it is something that you really like, and then go to events. And as KJ mentioned, just look around, go see who you can connect with, go see who you can hang out with for the weekend, go talk to the organizers and see if there's really cool volunteer positions. Spectator corners are there because they're usually kind of fun. So that's a good place to go. There's hundreds of things that need doing. And we as organizers certainly welcome the help.
And you can be involved without owning a car. You can be a competitor without owning the car. Like Sarah mentioned, co-driving. KJ just told everybody that he did over 70 events in 3 years, and he's only building a car now. So there's a lot of fun to be had in the other side of the car.
Or working on one, right?
Or working on
one. We're working on one. My dollars per mile right now is quite embarrassing.
That is terrible.
KJ, you were warned. You were warned about your
I should have known buying a lake.
I tried telling you. I pretty much told you.
Everyone warned me, and I was like, maybe this one will be different. And
no, don't be scared. Don't listen to them. And that's the biggest thing. In life, you got to take your chances and you got to make your moves. For everybody wanting to get into the sport, don't be scared to go up and ask somebody, because everybody in this sport will help you. It's not like when you go to, like when we did the rally cross with the GRC stuff, everybody was really secretive and it got to be a really uncomfortable vibe, not like the rally stuff. But don't be scared to go out and try. And then if you do get in a car, the key thing you need to focus on is finishing the event. You know, don't worry. You know, the thing that I always get worried about is everybody's got this attitude of full send and I'm really going to send this hard and I'm going to do this, and work your way into the sport, because when you crash your first car, it's really bad. And then when you get through a bunch of crashes, because you will crash the car. Everybody goes through that period where they go and they turn in the corner, they lock the brakes, and it goes straight off the road. It will happen. And it usually takes about 2 times before you say, man, that was really dumb. Finally sets in, but that repair cost is really expensive. So it is good to start in a really affordable car or a low budget car, and then just work your way into it. Don't worry about everybody wanting you to be the fastest or whatever. Finish the event. Put the focus on finishing it, because it's so much easier on your reprep and everything, and you'll be able to do more events.
The biggest prize fund I ever got at a rally was when we finished dead last. We were the last running car on the road. We were the last seed 6 back in those days. We were the last 2-wheel drive car. We were the last at everything. And everybody felt sorry for the last place finishers, as if it was a sad position to be in. And so they, you know, this award was $100. This one was for $300, and we ended up like $600 ahead that event. And that's never happened again. And we finished last. So, but we finished. That's the key, as Pat mentioned.
One of my favorite events, LSPR in 2021, we were dead last. We blew up the engine half a mile in a shakedown. They went and bought a whole nother car, did the engine swap in an AutoZone parking lot while we recce'd. And then, you know, we had like this 80 horsepower R2. We got stuck on the side of the road for 40 minutes. The car kept trying to brake. And we ended up finishing like 20 minutes behind the next closest car. But that was like the most fun event.
My most memorable event was probably my first real stage rally in the UP Magnum Opus. And we finished dead last in the Super Beat RX-7. It was held together with ratchet straps and pixie dust, basically. The hood was broken open, the hatch was broken open, the battery was ratchet strapped down to keep it going. And then Chris proposed at the end of it. So, but we finished dead last. So that was still probably the coolest event out of a lot of them.
So if he didn't finish, do you think he would have still asked?
I think he was very, very keen on
like,
finishing,
that's all right.
and it made it very hard to do that.
So
he kept the ring in his pocket all day, apparently. We had broke off the exhaust at the headers, so couldn't hear each other. We had no intercom. It was a whole thing.
Jeez.
So he asphyxiated you to get you to say yes. Okay.
That probably had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I'm glad it worked out. Back to Kevin's question about what you would give a newbie driver any advice. I think I would say get a couple of close friends, buy a car together, and share the duties of driving and co-driving, wrenching on the car, and share expenses as well. And just understand that the car is never going to be done. Get it done enough, get to events, get more miles in the woods is the key. And then if you decide you like it and it's a really fun sport, then spend the money on a nice car, spend the money to go to Tim O'Neill, spend the money and then start having going faster. But you're not going to be faster out of the gate unless you get miles in the woods or go to some advanced training.
I think the other angle of getting involved as well is, media is its own entity of rally. So if you're, into photography or art whatsoever, it's a great way to just be outside, and there's always media that are looking for help to tag along with, so you can learn with them, and they can show you the ropes and the stages. So
that's how I got pulled into the LSPR board. I sent Steve a bunch of videos of his car right before it rolled its snowdrift, and he's like, "Oh, you like rally videos, huh? You want to run the videos for LSPR? I'm like, I've never even been there. And he's like, good, you're hired. So yeah, that was, I was a marshal who had a phone and a camera and would send it to competitors. And it was right before Steve rolled at Snowdrift. And he was like, oh, look, my brakes, I was wobbling. And he's like, by the way, you should join our team. So yeah, that's one way to get involved, real quick.
What do you think, Chris?
For me, it's a summary of what everyone said. It's you have to be willing to volunteer your time because there's just too much to learn. And so like at the end of the day, whatever interests you the most and whatever part of our sport, be willing to volunteer some time and take a chance and ask somebody if they would be willing to, let you help. The reason I work at Team O'Neill is I sent an info at Team O'Neill email saying I have all these business skills and can I help you and can I get in a rally car someday? So I took a chance and it worked out for me. And I pretty much heard every success story in rally started with some sort of willing to volunteer your time and took a chance. So I would say that's a good review of what everyone just said.
Awesome. Well, a couple people touched on this. Some it was their first event or their last event, but what's your favorite event that you've run so far? And you don't have to say LSPR to be nice.
Yeah, you do.
I would say Donegal International. I just went over to Ireland in June, and that was insane. There was 70 to 80,000 spectators there, and there were like 320 cars entered or something like that. So, LSPR is always like one of the biggest nationals. And then you go over there and one single class has more cars than the entire field at any area national event. And it was just like, geez, this is insane. The pace that everyone has over there was wild. We were, this is probably one of the fastest or like hardest pushed events I've done ever. And we were barely mid-pack. And so, yeah, it was a completely surreal experience.
I'd have to say New England is my favorite past event. Magnum Opus was awesome and a good story. But New England was our first ARA event, I believe. And we went and we were sort of just adopted by the New England region crew and kind of just went from there. And that event has a lot of energy to it and was super awesome. So the roads are fantastic too. So that's one I'll miss in its old form, but we'll see how it evolves.
Yeah, I was going to say New England, I did get a chance to actually run it as well as organize it and owned it and all the other variables of it. But yeah, New England and then LSPR actually was one of my favorites. Tim and I talk about it a lot, and it's his favorite event. And so he always tries to do whatever he can to make sure New England LSPR stays on his calendar every year. So it's just good because it's tough, it's loose, it can be wet. There's so many variables, and that's tracks us to rally. Tim and I talk a lot about perfect rallies, perfect weather, perfect conditions. That's not very fun. What's fun is tough and challenging, and LSPR has that. So that's why it's one of our favorites.
Well, and I'll set a shout out to Snowdrift too, because it's a whole different event because it's our one primary winter rally. And, understanding how to control a car and go fast and make the car dance in insanely slippery conditions is one of the more gratifying things I've ever done. It's just, it's so cool to make a car dance and have people see you go by at speeds they can't even imagine. I mean, most people, when it starts to snow, they stay in, right? We go out and play. And so I've always been fond of Snowdrift from a driver's perspective, and just the area and everything else. LSPR has always been my favorite, long before we took over as chairman.
I'm going to have to kind of agree with you though, Eric. I have done my best at Snowdrift, and it's because it's the car control. It's a different mindset doing that race. KJ just mentioned about going flat out all the time in Donegal. At Snowdrift, my approach is 8/10, drive at 8/10 and go where the traction is. And you're not going as fast as you could go, but you also don't want to spend 10 minutes in a snowbank. So, and I always end up doing it. And that's the reason why my speed factor is as high as it is, because of snowdrift. I love the Ojibwe roads. The Ojibwe roads are fun. I like how they mix and match them. I'm really jealous of their roads. And then, but I also like 100 Acre Wood, but my heart's at Lake Superior. I mean, I still haven't gotten over Lake Superior 95 when I had the overall lead with one stage to go and my transmission blew up on the transit. I couldn't even have it. It didn't even have the honesty to brake on stage. I had to brake on the transit. But anyway, yeah, no. LSPR. And I'm trying to design a race that I would want to do. Just can't do it. And that's tough. So you guys got to go out and have a lot of fun for us this weekend or next weekend.
I think the better question here would be which event likes me the best, because I think I've been in trouble at about all of them. So,
in trouble how? Like in trouble as in overcooking a corner, or in trouble with the cops chasing you down the road?
No, that was Patowski. It wasn't me, but I might have been framed for it. But yeah, again, I've done all of them, for the years during the PGT and the SP and all of those things. So, and that question gets asked quite a bit, what's your favorite event? And every event is unique in its own way. Obviously, Snowdrift's unique in its way. 100 Acre is the first real gravel event of the year. So you really get to go out and really air the car out. So, you feel pretty confident, and it's forgiving. It's got a lot of runoff. So that's a very forgiving event. Going out west, the Olympus roads are awesome roads. The ones when we were out there in, Oregon Trail, when they ran over, and I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's Verdalia, when they had those high camber roads. Those were great roads, but every event has got its unique in its own way. Ohio roads are very smooth, but self-clearing. You make a mistake, you're going to be off the road. Everything's unique in its own way, but this year, I think the least impact on the car was probably Ojibwa. If I have to pick the event, and it's hard to say because I haven't done, this event this year. It looks like it's going to be really dry, and that's going to be unique because usually when you go to Lake Superior, it's an incredible event. I mean, I love the Brockway Mountain stage. Back in the day, like that was always a real lot of fun. But it's hard to get up there. There's some good stages up there, but I think there's a lot of resistance there. But in the Brockway Mountain, I think it's one of the top 10 roads in the world to drive. If you guys haven't been there, and if you got an extra day, go up there to Brockway Mountain. And then, I never looked around, because we were always racing, but I sunk the car one year and we went up to get Pritchard's car. And long story short, you look around up there at the top of the mountain. It's beautiful. So every one of these events is unique in its own character, but I'd have to say that every year it kind of changes. Years past, it's been Snowdrift, my favorite event. This year, I really liked Ojibwa. I think the roads were really good there. I think the roads have a lot of grip and it doesn't use tires and consumables. So right now, I think Ojibwa, and I don't understand why its entry is low, but it's a really good event.
All right. Good. This is an interesting one. I'm going to go to KJ. What is because you see a lot as a co-driver, maybe not because you're looking at your notes, but so what's the strangest thing you've ever seen on the stage? This could be in your car, or like you glance off and spectators doing something crazy. What's the strangest thing you've ever seen?
I don't know. Yeah, you see some like weird crashes. Probably the weirdest thing I've ever seen is some dude's bare ass hanging out on stage at Oregon Trail. I haven't seen anything like super wild. The occasional near miss with a deer, but yeah, nothing like insane.
What's the deal with that event? Everybody mooning everybody at that, because I remember ACP back in the day. You come over and he's like got his big old moon hanging out, and probably needs a little self grooming there. But
that's a tradition that's gone away. Unfortunately, it's gone away. That's
thank God.
Tradition.
It's
Yeah, I
a
remember
weird
Travis
tradition at
was
LSPR
telling me
too and
about
snowdrift, but you get cold and you cover back up quick at snowdrift.
So that's STPR one year. We were on a transit, and then at that time Mike Rossi was riding with me. And we're driving down and we see these two girls on the side of the road, and we're going by. And Ruth and Rossi just mouths it to themselves, like, show me your tits. And like we're in the car, and next thing you know, they lift up and flashed us. That was the kind of one of those weird moments.
I'd say we've been mooned probably at least 30% of the races we've been at in some way. Another strange thing that was on stage that I did not see firsthand, we were volunteering, was Sandblast. There was a spectator truck with a couch just on stage. So a competitor saw a moving couch. And the stage did have to get shut down, but yeah, seeing a stray couch was sounded a little interesting.
Okay, I got two things. We're doing as a steward for Rally Colorado. We're driving one of the stages before the cars got there. Actually, it was one of the zero cars, and we get out to a really cool corner. There's a guy in a truck there, and in the back of the truck is a tarp full of water. They brought a hot tub to a spectator rally. That was kind of interesting. But as a competitor, though, it was at the Ojibwe rally. Bill Westrick was co-driving for me. We're in the Talon. We're coming around a corner. We're leading the rally. And, okay, I'm going to date myself. Has anybody seen Bugs Bunny where they have that movable hole? They throw it against the wall and you can crawl through the wall, or throw it on the safe and go in the safe and rob the safe. We come around a corner and there's this dark spot that's darker than the rest of the dark night. And that was the first cartoon bubble that popped into my head, was the Bugs Bunny movable hole. And then there was a brown patch and a brown patch and a brown, and realized it was a bear running away from us. And I realized it was a bear, and then I sped up to try to catch up. I want to see it. And everybody says bears can run fast. We're going like 50 miles an hour, and this bear is running in front of me. Holy crap. And then the bear did a 90-degree turn and exited the road, and I saw him tumbling down the hill as we went by. That was an interesting.
I think it was Roadrunner, by the way, not Bugs Bunny.
I don't know. KJ, did you get that reference, or is that too old for you?
No, I understood that one. I'd say one time we saw a moose on stage at Nefer. That wasn't interesting. That thing was huge. You come around the corner. This was on Recce, but you come around the corner and it's like towering over the Recce car. And this was it was kind of sketchy.
I chased a moose down a New England road for about an hour on setup, and then he just would not get off the road, and there's no way to get off the road, and it's like one of those 10-mile-an-hour roads, and he just kept running down the road. It was I was like, I wish I could record this, because I didn't even have this before you were recording everything all the time, and it was the coolest experience. And one time at the rally school, actually, I was testing my rally car, and a baby bear came running onto the course, and like I have the video of this on our YouTube page. He touches my front fender because I'm like trying to drive away from him, and he turns and goes away from my rally car right at the same time that I nicked him, and he ran back into the woods, and I have never seen that little baby bear again. But that was when I just came out with the Barely Serious rally team design, and it was on the front left fender. So I was just saying that he was coming to look up at my logo and run away, but that was pretty cool.
Man, I was expecting somebody to say aliens.
That's probably in an hour from now if we can start drinking.
Sasquatch out west out there.
So that sounds like a 100-acre wood kind of thing. So did you guys get any formal training before you start, or was it all just kind of on the stage? Anybody go to a school prior or after you started, or is it all just seat time?
Yeah, I took like some basic training with Karen Jankowski before I did my first rally. Then I did 3 rallies, and I did Oz Rally Pro 1-day training before LSPR in 2021. Then next November in 2022, I did another 2 days of private training with them. And then last October, before LSPR again, we did another 2 days of training. So
I was basically the complete opposite. Have had no formal training, so it was all, you know, seat of the pants learning. If you look at my very first notes from our first rally sprint, it's quite hilarious what they look like. We did have to write notes for that, so it's quite funny to see the evolution of that without the training. But seat time is super valuable. It really also gets the job done.
Yeah, I didn't have any formal training during any of my rally career, and when I got done, I used to put on an ice race in northern Wisconsin, and all of a sudden I couldn't get access to the lake anymore because Dirtfish and Subaru had teamed up to put on the Subaru Winter Driving Experience. And so I thought, well, you know, I'm pretty good in the snow. I like the snow. That's my favorite thing to do. I go out and grin and play every time it snows, even in Wisconsin. And so I went and did the class afterwards to see what I didn't know, because I was actually pretty good in those kind of conditions, and I couldn't believe how much I learned. So I wished I'd have started out in a rally school. I wished I'd have started out in learning co-driving, and I wish that I'd have done it earlier in my career. And I can't say enough about the quality of the rally schools we have. They're just amazing. I think we lost Steve.
We did. He said he had to jump. There's a area organizer meeting that he had to get to. And Eric, you're going to stay and hang, right, and let him handle. That's why we have co-chairmen. So one can be business, and you know, one can be the face, and then you switch.
We can be in two places at once.
There we go.
I have an unfair advantage, obviously, now being a partner of a rally school, but I was probably the most trained, most experienced rookie rally driver 2017 when I did my first rally. But my rally car ended up burning to the ground. I was the last car on stage, and we ended up sweep was 3 minutes behind us. So it was a fuel fire, and it was something that even if we did have more fire extinguishers quickly, we would have not helped. So I didn't get a chance to get back into a rally car again on a rails rally until 2022. So really from 2013 to 2022, I'd gotten lots of seat time at a rally school. So I obviously would say that's attributed to my success behind the wheel now. 13 or 14 rallies in. So yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much bought a car, jumped in, but I had experience in other forms of motorsports before. You know, I don't know if anybody knows that or not, but I did I used to race all the GNCCs and national hare scrambles. So like I said, that's when the knees kind of go and the back kind of goes and all of that kind of stuff. You kind of jump into something else. Excuse me, done a bunch with shifter cart stuff. So, but then, you know, still getting into the car and driving. And I always say this, it takes about 2 years before you really things start to set in right in doing events. You know what I mean? So the whole locking the brakes and this car will do that. And, you know, I just remember like the first time I drove the car, I was like, this thing is terrible. Like, you know, like it doesn't turn, it doesn't do anything I want it to do. But then again, you know, KJ, you're going to experience all that kind of funness here. So we'll be looking forward to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned it before, but rallycross is a really good way, like super low budget way to get a feeling for car control. You know, if you're not quite ready to go to a school yet or jump into rally, so it's another great way. Got another question for you. I think we kind of already answered this, but maybe we'll ask it anyway. So, what's your single favorite stage from LSPR? Like, what's your favorite from the past, or what are you looking forward to next week?
multiple passes of Menge Creek. Finally getting multiple passes of it. It's always the best stage of the rally. So much flow, lots of elevation change. It's like probably one of the best stages in the country. And then only being able to run it once was always the worst part about it, because you like get through it and you're like, hell yeah, that was great. And then time to go somewhere else. So yeah, we were stoked to see that 2 passes of that were added this year.
As an organizer, it gets difficult because we try and get creative with different combinations of roads and stages and things, and those Bengi and Herman, or Al's Playground as we call it now, to honor our friend Al. We've tried to get rid of those and run other roads, and each time we do, we get a lot of hate mail and threats and online. Just we can't, so we have to run that. And then KJ told us this year if we didn't run it, we'd be out as chairman. So we decided to run it twice to see if that would help.
And it's interesting running one pass on day one and the other pass on day 2. Like, I like that. It adds a whole different aspect to it. That'll be really tricky.
Especially
it could be 2 totally different stages. You know,
Yeah,
if it's anything like a couple of years ago, it could be, you know, dry on Friday and 6 inches of snow on Saturday. You know, you never know.
Like last year, it was dry on day 1, and then we had a ton of rain on day 2. So, they could definitely be a whole different challenge.
Yeah, I would agree. It's such an awesome stage. Those 2 stages are so awesome.
I'm gonna go old school and say I want Brockway back.
I'm working on it. Me too. I'm with you, Pat. That's fun. There's a couple little crests at the top of that stage where you're almost in the sky and you're starting to flatten out on the top. You've kind of gotten through the hill climb part, and there's a crest that it's about a 5-degree bend to the right, and everybody knows it. And now with Recce, you'd know it even more. And it's just so incredibly hard not to lift when you think, well, if I don't lift here, I'm just going to die. So it's super fun.
I was talking right before Brockway.
I was talking to Steve earlier, and he was saying that used to be blind rally on Brockway.
Oh yeah.
Oof.
No Recce and no notes. Just follow the tulips, which are marginally helpful. I think there was 3 instructions on Brockway Mountain.
Might as well not even have
finish.
Well, hopefully we're going to have 3 new stages next year to teach you with too. We almost got them done this year, and we would have had a different Saturday loop, and got close, but didn't quite get done. And now I have a much bigger appreciation for those that work on road permissions and permitting and all that kind of good stuff, because I got to be a part of that group, helping out with them this summer.
I'm going to go off script here. We got a great question in the chat. Who's got the most crisp high five at Park Expose?
I don't know. I guess you're gonna have to come up and find out.
Yeah, we need a judge.
Yeah,
We
need someone to walk around with a camera and record each one.
I'll put $5 down for the award.
All right. So these questions, we're gonna these are a little more targeted to a couple different people, because some of you don't have answers for some of these. But so we're gonna look at KJ first. And I know you've only done it once or twice, but what do you like more, driving or co-driving?
Oh yeah, that's tough. Obviously driving is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of money. So being a college student and everything, you can only do probably 4 to 5 rallies driving next year. But then, you know, I have like an unlimited ceiling of co-driving. Basically, my limiting factor of co-driving is how many races there are in the year. Mm-hmm. So, you know, from a seat time aspect, I'm also a numbers guy. I like to see my mileage counter go up. So, you know, it's really satisfying. And then still being able to get in like the Rally 2, like I probably won't ever drive a Rally 2, but then going and getting in the Rally 2 with Javier and being able to experience the absolutely absurdity of that car, that's incredible. And that's really fun.
And I think Eric's the other one here in this group that has done both, right? Or is there more?
Yeah, about 20 years of each. I like them both for completely different reasons. Co-driving first half of my career with lots of driving in other forms, but in the rally car, I always co-drove for Chris Zizio. And it was one of my best friends growing up, which was kind of cool. And his older sister's the one that dragged us out into the woods to get us hooked on this sport. But when I switched over to driving, I realized right away, having my kids as my co-drivers, that I was terrible as a co-driver in comparison. I think in 2 or 3 years of them co-driving, I realized they were significantly better than I was after 20 years. And, during that time, notes happened and recce happened, and there's lots of improvements to the sport that make it more exciting too. You get to do more with the person on the other side of the car with a couple extra days of recce and things like that. So they're both fun in their own way. If you own the car, you're probably going to get your hands dirtier a lot more than if you're co-driving, but they're both really, really, really fun. I can't say that I really like one over the other.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard to choose. Each has its pros and cons. But it's never a bad day when you're in a rally car.
Or if you're out in the woods watching rally cars.
Yeah,
That's a great day too.
as long as there's a rally car involved, it's a pretty good day.
Yep.
Very easy for me to say, I will never sit in that right seat.
It's not for everyone.
Good enough to do it. Ole is very good, and there's a huge respect to everybody that can sit in that seat and do that job. I mean, that is, the co-driver never really gets the appreciation that they deserve, the amount of work that they put in, and it's just, like I said, I'll never sit in that right seat. I'm not capable of doing it. And it's a trust issue. I don't trust myself to be that accurate. So I'll just never sit in that seat.
I had Steve co-drive for me when we did Zero for Snowdrift one year, and I think he bent the floor pan on the co-driver's side, braking at points that I didn't brake and stomping on the gas at points where I accelerated gradually and things like that. So the floorboard on Steve's side was forever changed. Steve's not one that likes sitting in that seat either.
I got to co-drive for Tim O'Neill up the Mount Washington hill climb. So we got like 13 passes. Thankfully, my only time being a co-driver, we got a ton of passes and I was still atrocious. And I still remember the very first time where the gravel or where pavement turns to gravel. Tim's still trying to get the Focus RS figured out driving wise. And the car goes to the left and all I see is blue sky. And I just dropped the notes and I go, oh my God, what's happening? And Tim's like, what's going on? And I'm like, now I'm totally lost trying to figure out the notes. I just sat there the rest of the run. Luckily it was our trial run. And we get to the top of the mountain and I'm like, how do co-drivers not get like shocked? And he's like, you just don't look up at all. If you don't know what you're doing, just read the whole time. And I remember the actual run up the mountain. I don't remember looking up once at all because I was just like, feel the corners, call the notes, feel the north. And luckily, Tim, having a world record up that mountain back in the day, he knows the mountain pretty well. So he didn't really need me much for that job, thankfully. But I'm not cut out for the timing and the trust, like Pat said. I need the control of the steering wheel.
Oh, we're supposed to listen to the co-driver? Oh.
That's a scary thing because if I don't have the notes, I slow up and I wait for the note. I catch myself doing that. Like if you're driving somewhere or something and, someone's telling you where to go and you don't have it, you're just like, you catch yourself like, I don't know what to do. Oh, so.
I fight with my wife about that quite a bit. I need the note earlier. I need to know the next thing.
Got a quick one for you, Pat. Maybe it's related to floorboards. How much of this actual Sonic is left in your Sonic?
Oh, sorry, my mute wouldn't come off there. There's probably, like the mirrors are stock, the windshield stock, the windshield wiper arm, the 2 doors, the headlights, the hood, the roof panel, the rear hatch, the rear bumper cover. and that's pretty much about it. Everything else on it has been, the other one, we have a surface plate with all the fixtures to put everything in there. We have fixtures to build the subframes. So, there's just, and, all the wiring in the car is all motorsport stuff. So it's, like there's just very, very, very little in it that's stock. So, which is the same. I was behind one the other day, the guy doing parts delivery, and he kind of left me in my truck. So,
Pat, you said you're building another one for next year?
yeah, I'm building a newer one. That car is a little long in the tooth, but it's still in pretty good shape. And what we do here is when we build a car, we'll take the car down to nothing. We'll send it out and we have it burnt, and then we, put it on the surface plate, strap it all down, and do everything. So when that car was originally being built, we had a lot of restrictions. We have like 16 restrictions on that car. One of them was weight, with the restrictor on the motor, and just a lot of other stuff. So the general bones of the car are pretty good, but I just want to, if I'm going to run more next year, I don't know how I can do it with one car. So I need to have two cars. So I'm going to put two cars together. So, and again, it's always the famous thing. He's like, how do you commit to somebody saying that we're going to do this many rounds and then you lose a car? So it's just, we have everything here. We have all the fixtures. We have all the molds. It's ready. It's ready to come off the surface plate right now and go to powder coat. But we just, we do build some cars for other people. And when they kind of wreck their stuff or make a problem, then we usually put that car back in the loop to get it fixed and pushed ahead. So, and as everybody knows, these cars get to be pretty expensive. So it's also, I'm not independently wealthy. So everything that I do, whatever, jobs we do or whatever, it's throwing all that kind of money into these cars. So, yeah, it will be ready next year. The livery is pretty cool on it.
LS3 still?
Yeah, the basic bones of the car and everything is pretty much identical to the other one. We have done some things to take some weight out of it, so we'll be on the minimum weight. And like I say, everything's, very similar. So you'll be able to jump from one car to the other car, and I think everything will be, just feel the same.
Sam Jacques, who just sold and then bought another rally car, wants to know how much for a Sonic chassis. So you might want to give him after this because he likes buying and selling rally cars.
just the shell or the whole car?
It looks like he's looking for a chassis.
Okay.
Sam's an off-road truck racer, so he gets it. He gets building a car from your angle, Pat.
Yeah. So the original car to build is pretty pricey because you have to build all the fixtures and everything like that. There gets to be a point where you hate hearing the word McMaster car or MSC for tooling and all of that kind of things, or any of the wiring. You start looking at these, or you start seeing Brown and Miller receipts, and you're like, damn, that stuff went up. But we can reproduce that car for a little under $200,000, and that's with some spares with it as well. That's with all the spare control arms, the spare axles, which we, knock on wood, we haven't had any axle issues. And, we think we've got everything dialed out pretty good, but I think it's really key to have a second one. So now it's not just a one-off car. We have a second one and we can jump back and forth it. And we may actually be doing a third one as well.
Cool.
Very cool.
3-car Sonic field at LSPR next year. I'm liking the sounds of this.
If you got them all at the end of the year, might as well use them all, right?
That would be awesome. That would be really awesome. And one of the things about that car, the concept of the car, when you're building something, and everybody that's been doing this sport understands how expensive these cars are. So, the concept of the car was to build a car that you don't have to worry about. Subaru's been really great to me, but the engines are not exactly what we consider durable. Certain gearboxes in the Subaru are not what we consider durable. But it's to build a car like, and I hate to say the LS3 is just a basic because all the power is there. We don't have to worry about getting more power or anything like that. One of our restrictions was to be on pump gas, and then we got, everybody knows our fuel gate situation. We made the change and then kind of went through a long problem there. But it would be nice to put the car back onto the pump gas, because that would probably cut our fuel consumption of about $1,000 for your race. So, the idea is to get the running cost of the car down to something that's feasible. So if you can get the running cost of that car down to anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 an event, all in, I think that makes a viable thing for the sport.
Great.
All right. Question for Chris, and you talked about your own experiences this, but we're going to give you, we appreciate you coming on. What are the benefits of attending any rally school, or more specifically, O'Neill Rally School? But I know you'll say there's a bunch of good ones out there because they're spread all over the country. But what do you get out of it other than just some seat time?
Yeah, it's funny. Most of us schools don't get rally people coming to school. We get rally tourists that want to experience rally and come and go and don't ever get to the stages. But, the goal for rally schools is, if you're actually into rally, the money that you spend training will most likely be money saved in your first or second accident or third accident. Like Pat said, you're going to crash most likely at some point if you have a rally career beyond 2 or 3 stages or 2 or 3 rallies. But even just training at a rally school will get you enough tools in the toolbox to make a center dead on impact, a graze across a tree. And that's thousands of dollars saved just in one accident. So, it's something that I had my first big accident this year where I hit a group of trees, and just the looking down the road and making your eyes go into the place that they should be and giving yourself as many chances as you can. I know for sure that accident, or no, it's not an accident, it was a crash. That crash was a lot less money because of the skills that I had in the toolbox from my training. And so, I know I've talked to all the other owners of all the other rally schools, and we all have the same mindset. I'd say Team O'Neill, our biggest, thing. Tim O'Neill, 5-time national rally champion in his classes that he rallied in, built the curriculum for rally people. Like the goal of the Team O'Neill curriculum is to give you the training that you need to finish a rally. And that's what Team O'Neill has been started on and run on for 30 years. I know Dave in Texas has a similar mindset. And I know the guys out in Dirtfish, they kind of focus a little more on the all-wheel drive platform. So if your goal is to be in that platform specifically, that's a great option for you. So, there's all goods of different places, but yeah, I think training in general, OZ doing their co-driving school, and if you're into co-driving, you have that as an option. More training, it's always a better option, a better idea. The other thing that we've experienced too, if you have done rally and you've got that experience, going to a school can get you to the next level. And that's really fun to work with real rally guys that have guys and girls that have done it, have a little bit of experience, and like, oh, I really failed here, and maybe they don't know why. And so we can sit there and really break that down with them. And that's a lot of fun for us too. So definitely, I would say training in any facet's going to help you if you have the budget for it.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work at Rally Ready as an instructor for the last 2 years or so now. And I would say the biggest thing is a low consequence area to train. Like when you go to a rally, sure, you have your test stage, but it's still a legit road with actual consequences. You can't really like push, oh, how deep can I brake here? Whereas if you go to a rally school and you push your braking zone further and further, the worst thing that's going to happen is, you hit a cone or you spin out or something, where you can't really find those limits on a road, because then you're going off and you're hitting a tree. And then, so yeah, the biggest thing definitely is just getting seat time and having a no consequence area to kind of push those limits.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, we had a question for you since you've been co-driving a lot of different vehicles. What's the most fun car? Which one do you like the most? It doesn't have to be Chris's.
Not favorite driver, favorite car.
Favorite car. Oh,
You're muted.
are you muted?
I'm muted. So rear wheel drive is 100% the way to go for fun. So that's my favorite there. But BRZ is a lot of fun. The RX-7 was a lot of fun. Kevin Schmidt's RX-7 was tons of fun. But I think the most cartoon hilarious vehicle to be in that I've been in is Bill Conger's buggy. So it's a Predator X18, and that was just hilarious. It like defies physics on a stage road, and it was really, really cool.
Was that at a NASA rally?
Yeah, that was at Sandblast. So
Okay.
yeah, but the sideways in a rear wheel drive car is pretty good. Roberto gets pretty sideways in front wheel drive, but still not quite up to the rear wheel drive cars.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're about coming up on time, but we got one question in the chat that we definitely want to get to before we get done here. Coming in from Colin Schultz. Wants to know, if you had an unlimited budget, what pre-1990 car would you be rallying today? Engine swaps are acceptable.
Volkswagen Beetle. Air cooled.
Say a Mark II Golf. Those things are fun. I did a rally with Bryce in the Tower City Golf, and I've been in many rear wheel drive cars, and that was the most sideways I've ever been. That car was so stupid. I loved it.
I'd say I want to do Chris's dream of his rally MR2, which is he's got a recipe for it, but they're very small.
And they
I've
have
got
big
two.
clearance.
I've got two. The Lancia 037 would be just a car that, you know, as a kid and everything, you see them, they're just really cool cars. So I'd love to, you know, give a shot at one of those. And then obviously the Audi Quattro. Like, who wouldn't want to take one of those for a rip, you know?
So if you look close enough, when you get to Marquette, Michigan for LSPR, the original Michel Mouton Quattro that John Buffum bought and started running in the U.S. is being restored in an unknown place in Marquette right now. It has an aluminum roll cage that is shaped like a roll cage, and that's the only thing I can tell you that it's associated with roll cage. It wouldn't stop anything from happening. It's just insane.
Eric, I thought you were going to tell us where the Lancia was in the woods.
Oh, I know where that is, but I can't tell.
Hold on. What?
Chris is talking. He's muted though. Got another muter.
I wanted the Mini Cooper, the old 1965, like old school Mini Cooper. I did a whole report in high school about the kind of the new wave of rally in the 60s and the Mini Coopers and all the stuff that they were doing. And I've always just been in love with that tiny platform and would love to have that as a rally car.
My daughter just bought a beater because that's what she wants to do. Put a cage in it and go.
I'm surprised no one said Jeep Wagoneer, right? Because that was what one POR, right?
1972, the FIA Championship.
Gene Anderson.
First four-wheel drive too, right?
Yeah, and then outlawed. It was outlawed until the Quattro came back. You couldn't run four-wheel drive because he was too good. You can't be all those factory cars in a big Jeep. And Pat, I'm with you.
Like a dream too.
Yeah, I'm with you, Pat. Quattro. I mean, that's just like when you close your eyes and think of rally. It's it's a Quattro, and that's
Pat has the
In the
best two
Lancia there,
answers.
both those cars would just be great cars. Just see what they were. I mean, compared to, you always have everybody say, what's the comparison between the Group B cars and the cars today? In my mind, we are going so much faster than those cars because of the technology of the cars and the suspension and everything. But still, it would just be awesome, to get one of those out there and really feel what it was like, and have a respect for those guys that were driving some, in all honesty, some pretty sketchy equipment. So
Aluminum roll cages in them.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we're waiting to see if there's any more last-minute questions in the chat.
In the meantime, I'm just going to throw this up on the screen. If you guys do have anything else, any other questions about LSPR, want to learn how to volunteer, how to get involved, how to sponsor, anything at all, Steve, Erica, and my contact information is up here. You could always message us on Facebook or Instagram. Definitely want to take time to thank the panel for joining. I know the week before an event, you guys have a lot going on. An hour and a half is a big time commitment, but hopefully you guys had fun. Hopefully everybody watching had fun. Really appreciate it.
Let's do this every week.
Hey,
Then we
thank you
can
for
get
the
into those
invite.
rally stories we all have.
Nah, some of those can't be on air.
The Molly ones, huh?
He made the comment the other day. It's just not fun without Oli. And you know, he's a character for sure, and I love having him in the car.
We'll have to continue the stories next week. And if you're volunteered or a competitor, check your sport ID. There's a little announcement for something we'll do Thursday. So anything more to add about the event, Eric?
We got rid of all the virtual chicanes.
Man, I was going to try to go this whole time without a VC conversation.
Should have muted me.
Chris sent out some guidelines ahead of time. He said, whatever you do, don't talk about virtual chicanes because we might lose Pat for the entire event. So
We're gonna say Pat has to slow down to 10 miles an hour for this, but only Pat.
I know. Come on, just slow him down to like 60. We'll be fine.
as a competitor who also just happens to wear an organizer hat from time to time, I totally understand. And we don't like doing those things. We just sometimes have to.
Yeah, I get it. And I
The
understand.
goofy one on stage 3, we don't have a good solution for that, but it got us a new road, so we'll see what that means. And yeah, you'll see when you go do recce.
I appreciate you guys. This was fun. I look forward to hopefully doing something like this again.
Yeah, it was good.
Likewise.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
For joining.
Thanks for all of you
appreciate it.
being involved in the sport I've grown up with and love. It's a fun thing.
Safe travels. We will see you in Marquette next week.
Yeah, we'll
See
see you guys next week. Looking forward to it.
Oh, is that next week?
Thanks, everybody.
Gotta go.